Hello, my marketing and entrepreneur friends. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Let's Talk Marketing podcast, where I, your host, Katya Allison, get to explore the latest trends, techniques, and strategies in this wonderful world of marketing. Now, in today's episode, I have the pleasure of interviewing Danielle Harrison, a highly regarded copywriter and messaging strategist who has spent over a decade mastering the art of genuine client attraction. Now, she specializes in helping coaches and course creators authentically, which is one of my favorite words. As you know, it will come up again. I'm sure that's not a surprise, but she helps them authentically really focus on moving away from manipulative marketing tactics to a more empathetic and effective approach. Now, we talk about the concept of empathy marketing and how this approach is really different than any other quote unquote traditional methods. It's about understanding and meeting customers where they're at. We talk about the shift from bro marketing, which often employs false urgency, unrealistic promises, to strategies grounded in transparency and honesty. She offers valuable insights on the importance of empathy in marketing, the use of conversational language, and a personal touch in your marketing writing so that you're addressing the customer needs without speaking down to them or placing blame in the message you push out. That one's going to be an interesting one for you guys to listen to. There's some good knowledge bombs that are dropped. So grab your favorite beverage, sit back, and let's dive into it. Let's talk marketing. Danielle, welcome to the Let's Talk Marketing podcast. Excited to have you on here because today we're going to be diving into a little bit of empathy marketing and just kind of beyond bro tactics of marketing in the past. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. So glad to be here.
Now, let's have the audience get to know you a little bit. We always start off with learning what was your first marketing role, whether it had marketing in the title or it didn't.
Yeah, so my first marketing role, I was a media buyer at an agency. I was kind of doing all of the media buying from Facebook ads to, contacting random companies. But it actually, I think, ties in really well to what I'm focused on now because I just felt like a lot of what we were doing didn't sit right. It felt very unethical. We had one client that was a weight loss company, and the idea was to target recently divorced women. And it was rough. But from there, I ended up honing in at a different, more ethical company on Facebook ads, and eventually worked my way up in a smaller agency where I was wearing all the hats. So that's kind of how I got into copywriting.
And that is where you're at now, correct?
Yes, I do copywriting and marketing strategy for coaches and course creators.
Amazing. And what is it that you love about what you do? Now, with the good comes the bad. So I'm going to ask you, what could I pluck out? So be ready for that. But let's start with a positive. What is it that you love about what you currently do?
I really love just the vast variety of clients I work with and getting to learn about their business and their expertise and feeling like I just have all this knowledge about all these different areas.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially with this audience with coaches and course creators, I feel like there's a coach for any topic imaginable. There's a course for any topic imaginable. And I end up with like a lot of really niche people. And it's awesome. And then I just also love helping them find the dream clients that, appreciate how awesome they are.
That's amazing. I love that too. I think when you strategy, obviously you need to know the client, but when you look at copywriting as a whole and you have to actually be able to write and articulate like you are the person as well, it requires such a deep level of research and honestly true understanding, in my opinion, to really get to know it. So you must be fantastic to have for trivia, because I also think that you've got such a compounded like amount of information in your head that you otherwise probably wouldn't have like normally gone to search, you know what I mean? I used to work with a copywriter that it was amazing because I ran a boutique marketing agency and the clients were also vastly different, but he wrote for each one of them and his depth of knowledge, it's wild. So it's great that that's what you love. But what could I pluck out for you? If I had a magic wand and I could pluck something out, what would you pluck out of what you're currently doing?
I definitely have to say editing. I just hate reading back what I've already written, especially, if it's been like a long night of writing and
Yes.
staring and reading the same thing over and over. Yeah, that's, I think, I'm hoping to outsource that at some point this year.
It's always nice to outsource something like that as well too, because there's nothing like having a second set of eyes to kind of take a look at everything with a fresh set of eyes. Because I think oftentimes we don't pick up our own mistakes because we already know what it is that we
Mm-hmm.
meant. So like it's always nice to have that fresh set of eyes. I'm the opposite of you. I love editing. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's so hard to come up with a thing to write. Like that blank screen is, ooh, that blank screen of death is just really what I feel like. Now, in your role with copywriting and just kind of digital strategy, you have to be able to stay up to date with the trends. So tell me, how do you stay up to date with the trends? Is it books? Is it a podcast? Are you networking? Is it like, are you going to shows and events? How do you stay up to date?
I would say it's all of the above. I'm on every email list. To the point where it gets overwhelming. And
Yeah.
I'm try to be very active on LinkedIn. That's kind of for a while almost replaced my Instagram scrolling is
Yeah.
my LinkedIn scrolling. And yeah, I'm in a few masterminds and group like course with coaching programs. Um, so yeah, I feel like in this industry, you kind of have to be a little bit nerdy and always learning.
Absolutely. Is there a newsletter that you do actually read? Because I'm the same way. I think that I've subscribed to every single newsletter known to man, and I probably read maybe one or two of them a week, and that's about it. And I usually don't go very deep. So, is there a newsletter that you would recommend?
So for copy specifically, the two that I pretty much read the most consistently are from the Copywriter Club, and then
Okay,
there's also one from Ashlyn Carter. And those both,
Ashley
I don't
Carr.
know, they just always have really great nuggets and things I didn't think of before, versus there's definitely a lot of generic content out there. But I
Yes,
feel like I always get something from reading those.
I think that's the important thing. As long as you walk away with a nugget, that's what's important. Now, you said Ashlyn Carr, Carr.
Oh, Carter.
Oh, well, I got that really wrong. I never would have found the newsletter. Ashlyn Carter. There we go. So we'll definitely have to take a look at that. Now, let's dive into the strategy that we intended to talk about today, which the higher level topic is empathy marketing. Before we dive too deep into it, what do we mean by empathy marketing and what do we mean by bro-centric, bro marketing?
Mm-hmm. So to me, empathy centric marketing is meeting someone where they're at. It's,
Okay.
first doing the research to understand them, but also using, I almost want to say using psychology for good versus evil. Because I
There
think,
you go.
because I think pro marketing, it uses a lot of the same concepts, but the tactics used are different. So, it's knowing that humans need certain needs met in order to want to buy something. So we want to know that other people are buying it and happy with it. So it's, promising these big results um, versus, just being honest and
Yeah.
making realistic promises versus huge misleading promises like, lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Um, and not using fake urgency like this ends tomorrow and but I already know I'm going to email you the day after that too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and all those tactics versus kind of throwing away the tactics. Like there's still a bit of that in there, I think, with any marketing. But I think with empathy centric marketing, it's more about like understanding your audience, where they're at, what they're dealing with right now, and kind of approaching it in a I see you kind of way. And this is how I can help. Yeah, that's, I think, how I would describe.
No, I love that. And what I'm hearing is probably like the bro-centric marketing. It sounds to me a little bit more clickbaity, right? Like I'm going to get you to look. I'm going to get you to look, and then I'm going to put in front of you whatever it is. It's like whatever got you to look doesn't match the message after you click, which is why it reminds me a little bit of like clickbaity. And when you're describing empathy marketing, I love what you said about meeting people where they're at. And if I go even a deeper level, the way that I view it and what I'm hearing you say is that, you kind of have to position it so that you come across like you understand what their challenges are. And you should, as a marketer, do your value proposition work and understand what needs you're actually meeting and putting those forward too. Um, I do think that sometimes the lines get blurred, right? Because as a marketer, I need them to look, I need the thumb scrolling to stop. So that's why I think it's hard sometimes for brands to balance like the bro with the empathy. What advice do you give or do you have for what that balance looks like?
Mm-hmm. I think there's two big pieces. I think one of the problems with bro marketing is that it's become so universal that
Yeah.
a lot of the clickbaity things, people are already seeing those a million times a day. So you might
Yeah.
get people to click, but some of them are the lowest hanging fruit, the people that probably would have clicked no matter what. There are other people are the people that are more responsive to fear based marketing because
Yeah.
they're desperate, which is probably, especially if you have a personal brand or service based brand where you're actually going to be dealing with these people, you probably don't want them as clients because they're not going to be satisfied. They bought on in such a state where I feel like that's from a psychology perspective stays with them. If
Yeah.
you buy in a happy place, you're more likely to be satisfied versus if you buy and you're tense and anxious, your whole experience may very well be that. And, if they're asking for a refund, they're not giving you referrals. It's just not, it's low hanging fruit, but not quality clients that you want, the people
Yeah.
that really resonate with you. So yeah, I think to circle back to what you were saying, I think I went on a little bit of a tangent.
I love it.
I think, there is a balance, and I think you can have exciting, like cliffhanger things that
Yeah.
are, in a sense, driving clicks. But I think it's also about closing that loop. It's about not saying, hey, you're like, click here to find this is a bad example because it's very bro markety, even if you do deliver on this, but click here to find the one thing in your kitchen that's killing you.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's bro markety even if you do deliver on that, but in a lot of cases, it's not even easy to find that on the next page. It's a
Yeah.
20-page sales page, and they're not directly addressing it. Or it's clickbaity because it's making those misleading claims. They'll lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks. Whereas I think it takes a lot of that bro markety, clickbaitiness out of it if you at least stick to a realistic promise that you can deliver on.
Now, when we were talking about this podcast to begin with, one of the things that I loved that you said was the demise of bro marketing. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on like why the demise of bro marketing? Why do you think it is going away?
Hmm. Yeah. So I think it's partially connects to what I was saying about it's become so universal that people are tired of it. But I also
Yeah.
think it's just a matter of when a lot of these tactics were first used, it was in print ads in the 50s. And back then, people weren't seeing nearly as many ads as they're seeing today.
Yes.
Versus now, you're bombarded with ads. I think I saw a statistic the other day that people saw maybe 500 ads a day back then, which still seems really high. But now it's like 1,000 or 5,000. It's crazy. So when you're bombarded with all these crazy claims, they kind of all start to blend together and not feel real. And if you're a savvy consumer, you're
Hmm.
not falling for it, you're not buying. Um, and it almost stands out more when someone's
Yeah,
just real.
that's so true. It's those tactics, they can give me the ick. You know what I mean? Like I don't even want to engage in it. I know I'm not going to get what it is that they're saying. I'm not going to fall for it. I will fall for it a couple times and then I'm not going to do it again because it does get me, right? Like it does pique my interest, but ultimately what they want to do is trick me. It's the whole bait and switch. My thought also, as you were just kind of unpacking that a little bit, is that this, to me, the demise also is, it is in that state because that doesn't build trust. And
Mm-hmm.
my thoughts are that in this day and age that we're living in, trust has become such a key factor. And not that like trust was never a thing, but I guess to your point earlier in regards to that stat, if I'm doubling the amount of ads, like I I really want to trust the brand and the product, and that is going to require many different ways to absorb it. So it can't be the one in 1,000. It's got to be, several in the thousand to stick out, and you have to be able to show all those different values. What is your thought on like this is going to sound like a really silly question. The evolution of trust in marketing. Do you know what I mean? Like, what are your thoughts around like this evolution of trust in marketing? Are we needing as consumers more trust? And as marketers, do we have to play into that even more so now more than ever?
I definitely think so. I think even, maybe 10 years ago, I think a lot of what I think of with bro marketing is those sales pages where it's like some kit in a box, it's like business in a box, or like you
Yeah.
make $1 million in a box. And it was a one off product. Like a lot of them ended up being scams and they just disappeared. Or it was just a one off thing and they made a bunch of money, but they didn't need to build trust because they had no long term goals.
Yeah.
Um, and I think because so many people have gotten burned by that or just seen other people getting burned by that, we learned, we became savvier. And I think most people that are in business want to be in business not for a few months,
For the
but for
long
the
term.
long run. Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, you need trust in order to get people to continue to buy from you, to refer you to others. And I think too, because of all that, consumers need more touch points too.
Yes.
I think it's not just like, oh, I saw this ad from this guy and he said he could make me rich. It's, you're
All I
subscribing to
have to
their,
do is XYZ. It's like
yeah.
the forever side hustles. Here are the side hustles that you need in order to make $1 million. If it was really that easy, we'd all be millionaires. You know what I mean? Like, I think
Mm-hmm.
that trust plays a huge part in it. I think that you're right. Like, you have to be able to be seen multiple times in order to even make an impact. And the messaging is so key. But I'd love to hear also your thoughts on what are some kind of key indicators in other brands that I can look out for to as a good example of like, oh, they're engaging in this empathy first marketing. And also more importantly, how can I recognize that I'm doing that on my own, right? Like, and this is obviously a two-part question. So the first is like kind of what are key indicators that I'm looking for when I am evaluating other brands as a consumer and as a marketer?
I think a big one that's easy to see is transparency.
Okay.
Saying one of my favorite emails to get is the one where it's like, oops, we messed up. And it's apologizing for something that the brand did, or maybe it's something as simple as we sent an email and we didn't send the link. But just the fact that it feels real, it feels genuine, and it shows you that they're not just, hiding things under the rug, and it makes you trust them more for other things that they might be
Yeah.
transparent about. But I think that extends to kind of counteracting some of these tactics, in terms of scarcity, for instance, rather than
Yes.
saying this offer is limited to 5 people when it's pretty clear it's not, because it's like a virtual product and there's no reason for them to do that. Instead of doing that, you either say, if there really is a limit, say why. Like we want to
Yeah.
keep this intimate, or just not having that and being very clear on when this offer ends and not being like, oops, extend it again. Just being very
Yeah.
real and honest. And I think people notice when they see that you're consistent.
I love that example because I think it's a good balance of what we were talking about in regards to still using the tactics, but in an empathy first way. That that example is so spot on. You can use scarcity, but not as a scare tactic, giving them the reason why. And I love that reason of like, we're trying to keep this more intimate. Even like, we're testing this out, like, and we want to test it out with the first 50 people to come on here and we don't want you to miss out, right? I think that's such a fantastic example of how you balance both of them. Because I think sometimes, and I myself will do like this knee jerk. I'm not saying that I am like the queen of bro marketing because that's definitely not what I'm saying. But I think it's easy to get into that, right? Like, oh, I want the sense of urgency. It's the urgency, it's the scarcity. It's like, please play into it. But there is such a great way to be able to balance the honesty and the transparency of that as well too. Having your cake and eating it too. I think I used that adage right. Yeah.
I've honestly never understood that expression. So yeah, sure.
I know, like, why wouldn't you eat the cake? No, that's true. But it's, but you know what I'm trying to get at, right? Like it is the best of both worlds and it's being more strategic and it's not being lazy at marketing, which I'm not saying that ever, like if you use the other tactics, you're lazy, but it is a little lazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How can I recognize it in my own work? Like, I think that there are people out there that are listening and they're like, well, of course, empathy first. Like, I am doing that. I am thinking of my customer, but it's a slippery slope because we all have it a bottom line. So, are there things that you can do to just kind of help recognize it in your own work?
hmm I think there are some things you can look for. One thing that I've even caught myself doing is in terms of future pacing, in terms of painting the picture of what someone's life will look like, if they buy your program or work with you or buy
Yeah.
a product. Um, a lot of people do the whole this is for you if, and this is not for you if, and
Yes.
the this
All
is
the
for
time.
you, yeah, and this is
All
for
the
you
time.
section has all these great things. And then this is not for you if section feels really judgy and mean. It's like, this is not for you if you're lazy, or if you don't. I've seen ones where it's like, this is for you if you want to build a business. This is not for you if you don't like money. I'm like, oh, come on.
This is true. Top 10 reasons why you shouldn't do business with us. I think that's kind of a clever way of giving those reasons because it does do a good balance. But I've also seen those ads too. You know, the other one that I continue to see on TikTok, it's the V shred guy. I don't know if you've ever seen this V shred guy, but Dr. Drew also does his commercials, and now they've gotten me because I am a woman in my 40s and my metabolism has stopped. So now there's this woman in her 40s, and she's sitting there and she's like, women in their 40s, and I clicked on it, and I tell you what, like 30 seconds into it, the V shred guy came on, and I'm like, well, wait a second. Now I actually scroll past it because I'm like, okay, well, it's not this woman telling me. She is just delivering me to this guy who now wants me to take a quiz, who I've gone down that rabbit hole. It's like never ending, right? So yeah, I now I went down that rabbit hole. I'm having like flashbacks of like really bad bro marketing tactics, right? And no offense, I'm sure the V shred guy completely works. Now, do you see that there are some kind of emerging trends as it pertains to marketing and more companies doing just empathy first marketing, or like are there things that you are seeing that are coming up?
Hmm. Yeah, I think there's a few things. Like one thing I see that's really like kind of on the verge, and I haven't really adapted this yet, is it kind of ties into empathy though, is accessible marketing. You know,
Okay.
I know like one of the tactics, not tactics, because I feel like that makes it sound like we're still talking about pro marketing, but you know, not relying on just emojis, because if someone's using like a talk to text feature, that may not
Mhm.
translate. Like more using emojis in addition to text versus replacing text. And yeah, features like that, and being careful of what you're bolding. Yeah, that's something I've seen some people really start to adapt. Again, I have not really dove into that world yet. But that does seem like it's something that is going to probably be big in the coming future.
What do you
Um,
mean by the bolding, like the
so
content that you bold?
yeah, so I guess when you bold content, it's just not clear to someone who is using feature like accessible features like talk to or text to voice.
Oh yeah,
Like they won't know that this text is emphasized. So I guess you need
yeah.
a different way to show that this is important.
And you as a copywriter, you're everything is based on the words and the story that it is that you are telling. So, how do you balance out the story that you're telling if it's like a topic, just any sort of topic that you're attacking? I'm trying to think of an example because you're coaching and
Oh,
course,
sorry, course creators.
course creators. There we go. No, no worries. I was like, it was leaving my head. So, coaching and course creators, like, what is an example copy that shows empathy first writing? Because we talked about marketing, but like, what's empathy first writing look like?
Hmm. I think it's one, speaking conversationally, not speaking down to someone.
Hmm.
Um, and I think along those lines, I think one big thing is not blaming them for where they're at. And this
Yeah,
also ties into like, not judging people for not buying. But, I feel like I see a lot of content, and I've been guilty of this a few times, where it's like, if you aren't making 100K in your business, it's because you're not being consistent, or you're not doing this, or you're not doing that. Versus, hey, this is the reason it's not working. I get it. No one's taught you how to do this. It's like
yeah,
approaching it from understanding why they're not doing the thing versus yelling at them for not doing the thing. Or
that's so true.
conversely, yeah. Or conversely, I feel like I see this a lot in health, where it's like, oh, you're not eating the right amount of calories or whatever. And
Yeah,
that's such an overwhelming space, the health space. So I feel like
yeah.
in order to resonate, you really need to understand that this is a difficult thing people are going through. So judging them is not going to help them relate to you.
Yeah, and you have to be able to craft it in that way that it speaks to it. I love that you said conversational because I think that that's really huge as well too. I think a lot of people think like when you're writing things out, it has to be all, I don't know, like I don't want to say buttoned up because I don't want it to seem like conversational isn't buttoned up, but it reminds me of the conversations we're having nowadays in regards to AI writing things, how you can tell it's written versus not written because it uses words that you don't use in conversation. You don't normally even use it in writing, right? Like I say the word landscape because it's like part of my shtick in there, but like otherwise, there would be no other reason for me to use the word landscape or delve and all of that stuff. So I think that conversational language that you're speaking about helps you be more empathetic because it is relatable. Like, oh, this person is saying it as if they're speaking to me, not at
Mm-hmm.
me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I see that so much, especially when I start working with a new client and I'm going through what they've already written. There's, one of my biggest pet peeves is never using contractions. I am going to help you to be, just being very wordy versus,
Yeah, could not.
yeah, like
Yeah.
there are times where it makes sense, but if every single phrase is like that, it does feel very overly formal and a little bit AI like.
Yeah, it is a little bit AI like, and you want to be relatable. I think that's also part of like the empathy first in marketing and in writing is not just meeting people where they're at, but like meeting people like being a people, like being a person on that. Like if you are now relatable in what the message that you're talking about and how you're saying it, it takes both of those to really hit the nail on the head when it comes to empathy marketing. This has been fantastic. I have one final question for you. And that question is, if you knew then what you know now, what's the marketing or non-marketing advice that you give to yourself?
I would say, and this is, I think, all of the above. I think this is marketing. I think this is business. I think it's life. Is that you don't have to do things the way someone told you to do those things. I
Ooh, spicy.
think like I think even in terms of building my business, a lot of people are like, oh, you have to show up every day on social media and you have to, email your list like at least 2, 3 times a week. And you have to show up on video and you have to do all these things. And I don't really
Yeah.
do pretty much any of that. And I think this is true for marketing, I just had a call with a prospective client the other day who was like, please don't make me film a master class or a webinar. I was like, no, okay. You don't have to.
You don't have to. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think the key is that you're telling people be yourself. And it doesn't matter what quote unquote experts say of like, hey, you've got to do this in order to get to that. I think there's so many paths to get to whatever your end point is, or maybe it's not your end point, right? Maybe it is just finding that job or, executing that particular campaign. As long as you're being authentically yourself, at the very end of it, you know that that's transparent. You know that that's empathetic first as well too. So I love that advice that you would give to yourself. Authenticity. I think I talk about it all the time. Well, thank you so much for coming on here. This has been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome.
Let's jump right into the key takeaways. My first key takeaway from this episode is empathy marketing creates a more, here's my word, authentic connection with your customers. Now, this approach of empathy marketing really involves understanding and addressing the audience's true needs and emotions and avoiding the kind of clickbaity tactics to grab someone's attention. This creates transparency, which really helps to build trust because you're making realistic promises, not providing false hope. a fine balance, a shift away from that quote unquote bro marketing. Let's use skincare brand as an example. One that leads with empathy would actively engage with its customers by providing detailed information about ingredient sourcing and product efficacy. Now, they address customers' concerns openly and offer practical advice on how to use their products to get the best results. Versus bro tactic of kind of just making exaggerated claims like promising miracle results or pushing false urgency, like all of your wrinkles will go away next week. I think in general, one leaves you more with the kind of ick feeling and one doesn't. Key takeaway number 2, conversational language with a personal touch. The cornerstones of empathy marketing. Speak directly and avoid using formal or distant language that helps in creating a more authentic connection with the audience. This is not the SATs, my friends. It's a conversation with customers. So don't speak down to them and engage in a way that feels human and relatable. This approach not only helps foster that trust, but it also aligns with the modern consumer's preference for genuine interactions over this kind of more robotic and impersonal messaging that we're really starting to move completely away from. Let's go back to the skincare example. I have apparently skincare on the mind, but in another skincare example for this, instead of saying our product will enhance your skin's radiance, it might say, think of how refreshed and glowing your skin will look after using our product. This style of communication not only makes the brand seem more approachable, but also helps the audience relate a little bit more deeply. So instead of saying our product will enhance your skin's radiance, I can't even imagine my saying that to someone like, hey, do you like this? Do you like this cream? Yes, it enhances my skin's radiance. Think of like, I do feel refreshed. I have glowing skin, relatable language. The final key takeaway is break free from marketing norms. Be yourself. Danielle's advice at the end to her past self was simple. Follow your authentic style. Her examples of avoid common practices like frequent social media updates and multiple weekly emails in favor of a more personalized approach. While I don't agree 100% with those specific examples that were brought up, I do wholeheartedly agree on a more personalized approach that you as a marketer can feel good about. This doesn't mean cyber stalking or being in your face, but it does mean not compromising your own values to get the lead. There is a balance, and at the crux of that balance is, here's my word, authenticity. And while we talk a lot about it as it pertains to marketing tactics, this is a key takeaway for me because it's breaking from the marketing norms encourages being you as a marketer. By doing that, you're building marketing strategies that are not only effective, but also true to your own kind of, not voice, but true to your own strengths. Again, I'm not saying go rogue, but I am saying be who you are. Ideas create sparks that eventually become fireworks. And when you act as your true, authentic self, you give room for the sparks to happen. What did you take away from today's episode? I really want to hear it. Post it on the Let's Talk Marketing LinkedIn page, YouTube channels, leave it in a review on Apple. I do read those reviews. Let's keep this conversation going. A very special thank you to my podcast editor, Johnny Ike, and thanks to you for spending your time with me today. Until next time, may the conversation flow, the laughter linger, and the outlook remain optimistic but grounded in reality. This is Katya, signing off.